Lurking in the background is the familiar shape of a 1950s-style UFO. This fresco from a 14th century monastery in Kosovo prominently features what appears to be a flying vehicle. On this French coin, minted in 1680, a ray of light beams down from a colossal wheel-shaped object. Sporadic sightings continue to be recorded for the next 250 years. In the 1940s, World War II pilots joined the long list of UFO eyewitnesses. Some of these pilots would later come forward to tell their stories as interest in UFOs increased after the war.
Pilots on all sides of the conflict, the Axis and the Allied pilots, reported strange objects, sometimes flying off the wingtips of their airplanes, and seemingly exhibit intelligent maneuvering. If you tried to fly the airplane toward it, the object would fly along with you and just keeping off the wing, or dive down or fly above. You couldn't catch up with it.
I talked to a pilot of a B-24 bomber during World War II, and he said one circled around their airplane. Round, smooth, sleek. They all expected to die instantly because this must be a new German secret weapon that was going to shoot them down. We sure don't have anything that looks like that and flies like that.
I have one account where they actually fired out and they seemingly went through it. They didn't damage the object at all. Allied pilots thought they were secret weapons of the Germans. Germans thought they were secret weapons of the Allies, England and America, and they were even seen in the Pacific theater.
However, after the war, it became clear that neither the Allies nor the Axis had produced these super aircraft. Someone else had.
And they did exhibit maneuvering that, again, was much like the types of objects that were seen immediately after the war ended and called flying saucers at that time.
Many believe that in July of 1947, near the top-secret airbase at Roswell, New Mexico, the United States military finally got a close-up look at these mysterious spacecraft.
The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
In the fall of 1945, American boys came home to a hard-earned welcome. They had faced unspeakable horrors. Now they would head for suburbia and get started on the baby boom. At the same time, another new era was dawning. The age of flying saucers. The enigmatic spacecraft that had appeared from time to time through the centuries would now take center stage. The age of innocence was over. The wave of modern UFO sightings began simply, with no photos, no radar returns, and no physical evidence. Just a story told by one man at the right time in history. Kenneth Arnold was a 32-year-old successful businessman on the summer day that his sighting took place. He sold firefighting equipment and flew his own light plane. On Tuesday, June 24th, 1947, Arnold was flying toward Mount Rainier above the Cascade Mountains of Washington State. The air was smooth and clear as he reached 9,200 feet and noticed a bright flash. To the left and north of Mount Rainier, Arnold saw what he described as 9 unusual aircraft flying at over 1,200 miles per hour. As they passed the mountain, the objects were outlined against the snow. They traveled in a V formation and skittered across the sky in such a way that Arnold said they resembled a saucer skipping across water. Arnold first told his story upon landing at the Yakima, Washington airport. He sketched a series of diagrams to illustrate what he had seen. What he drew was shaped like a crescent, 50 feet long and only 3 feet thick. It had a rounded point in the rear. When seen edge on, he reported, it looked like a black line. It wasn't long before the story of Arnold's sighting startled the world. The newspapers quickly coined a name for Arnold's skipping discs. The name was flying saucers. Kenneth Arnold was soon to enjoy a celebrity status. The author of a book and the subject of magazine cover stories, he was looked upon as a combination of space-age visionary and screwball eccentric. The press would anoint him the man who started it all. In the days and weeks after Arnold's landmark flight, flying saucers became big news. Sightings were reported across the country. Indeed, at that time, more people knew about flying saucers than about the Marshall Plan for the post-war reconstruction of Europe. But one incident above all established flying saucers in the public mind. Roswell, New Mexico lies deep in the empty expanse of the American Southwest. Today, its very name conjures up memories of a supposed UFO crash and government cover-up. It is remembered as the Roswell incident. In the summer of 1947, the Army airfield in Roswell was home to the elite 509th Bomb Group. During World War II, the B-29s that carried atom bombs to Hiroshima and Nagasaki had originated here. And so would an event that gave substance to the belief in flying saucers.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army. Army officers say the missile, found sometime last week, has been inspected at Roswell, New Mexico, and sent to Wright Field, Ohio, for further inspection.
Walter Hott was Public Information Officer of the 509th Bomb Group. He was the official instructed to dispatch press releases to the radio station and newspapers in Roswell. The story fed the imagination of the country, but has been the source of controversy ever since.
The press release that I'd received stated that we had in our possession parts of a crashed flying disc. The material was found on a ranch north of Roswell.
Then the story abruptly changed. General Roger Ramey took command of the Roswell situation and issued a new statement. It wasn't a flying disc after all.
To me, I think it was one of the slickest cover-ups by admitting that